So, and look, success leaves clues. History is also leaves clues. So back here, not only did we have that ERI, we had an RSI about the same time on the weekly. So bullish divergence is a little bit harder to read without having that green dot printing but it looks fairly similar here. We have, the RSI pushing up toward that midline, kind of seeing that same thing. And so I'm not sure of the mechanics and the math, but when we start to see a bullish divergence on that is also a good sign because we saw it back here as well. And in some cases, the bullish divergence circle is the early reversal indicator. We're not going to call it that, but yeah, that bullish divergence is really interesting. So we're going to be watching really carefully. And I know we've been waiting so long for these ideal setups, but I'm preparing you for when we get that. And it could be coming soon here, very soon. So prepare mentally, prepare financially. It's not the time to be getting out. I know people that are going short and heavily short, and I think that's a big mistake. And so if that's you, I would certainly not be going short here because we've got strong support down below. If we did come back down, the worst case scenario is 74K, maybe 72K. I just don't see that happening. But we have to see that ERI hold. If we have a sell-off going into the end of the week, if we reject at the 21-week EMA here, and we come back down, that would be a DCA opportunity, especially right around that 50-week EMA. So make sure you have these charts on your setup. And I have this set to sharing, so I'm going to drop that in here for you guys to borrow. And, I think when you do that, if you do that, make sure you make a copy of that. I can't remember. It should be view only. But in the past, I've had somebody go in and make changes and it showed up on my charts. So if you click on that, all you'd have to do is go under this area, go to make a copy, right under the chart layout. I call it CM Pro layout, but go to make a copy. And that way you can make it your own, but it will still have the signals if you're a Crypto Mastery member. Okay, moving right along. Trying to get to keep to the meat of it and keep things moving quickly, you guys. So any questions on that? We're still in a bit of a waiting game. Here is another sign though that we could see some pullback here. And that is the IBIT. We've been talking about this 4-hour IBIT, and it is back to working again where these IBIT gaps are filling themselves. So this is similar to the CME gap. If there's a gap that is an imbalance in price between the buyers and sellers, and this is of course the BlackRock IBIT ETF. And so not only do we also see these are these hidden clues that make it a little bit harder, right? So we have sell pressure up here, but and we have sell pressure right here rejecting on this 4-hour, and we do have a gap here to the downside. So some pullback is likely right in there. And so if we were to see that, that would be our pullback and DCA spot. This is that Wizard of Oz. We're looking behind the curtain to the machinery and the pulleys and the gears. This is how these things work. So if this comes down to around 48, I'll set an alert to have a buy signal there. Why didn't that work here? I'll drag that down a bit. So that would be right around $48 on the IBIT. Let's just call it 48.05 to get a little bit ahead of it. And, hopefully this isn't too much for you guys. This is pretty simple stuff now that you've seen it 100 times or more. So here we want to be looking for those places where the puck is going to be, where Wayne Gretzky would be skating to. And of course, that was his secret to success. He said, I skate to where the puck is going to be. So we want to put that in there, and I would just say gap fill. And so there we go. So now I'll have an alert and I'll alert you guys. So anyway, we had drawn this kind of squiggle here. Wasn't too far off. It's okay to move these around a little bit. And our parallel channel was off a bit, but hey, that's all right. We can massage these things a bit as we go. Would have hoped for more of an upward slope on that. So this is not terribly exciting other than, let me redraw this. Yeah, we're still in the downtrending channel on that. Well, and that's, as you guys know, I'll often kind of get excited about a trade and then look for ways to invalidate it. And I think that has served me well over the years. And so I'm a little bit less enthusiastic now. I was coming in here to have a class of, hey, that looks bullish, we're going higher, but we have to see what the charts are telling us. And on this, still in a downtrending, but if we were to gap fill this down in this range and bounce out of it, that's really where we want to be looking. So I'm going to set another alert. Unfortunately, we have some resistance to clear here. This can happen very quickly, but where you want to be paying attention and where we don't want to be diving in prematurely, believe it or not, there will be a time and a place. And it just has been so hard around this 100K level of Bitcoin, and I've been saying this. Now I'm going to make this a different color because it's not a gap to fill, and I want to be congruent with what we're kind of doing there. So if we do that as a green gap or a green circle, we want to be buying and looking for entries kind of above these levels, right? So and that would be where we have some confirmation that these resistance zones are starting to break down. The sellers are starting to become exhausted. So we can do multiple alerts on this, crossing up on the IBIT 4-hour, buy, and then question mark. So that would be a potential breakout. What I'm looking for is this pattern breaking out of the downtrending channel. The IBIT tends to be a leading indicator, one of a few, for Bitcoin. And so it's encouraging. We're seeing higher lows in here. And we do have some sell pressure there. Again, we have that 4-hour gap to fill. So on this, I think probably this zigzag is going to look more like that. All right, and let's just keep drawing it till it makes sense. These things are never meant to be exact, but to pull back down, fill that gap right in that range, have that alert, push up, reject here, pull back. This is likely the pattern that we're going to see. Just so we have a roadmap. Good to have one of those when you're on a long trip. And it's been a long trip, you guys. Trust me, I know it is taking forever for us to get to the promised land. But you know, there's I guess this is a good analogy I'll share. And it was during a very difficult time that I discovered this or sort of observed this. And I had a very successful Forex trading company, and the instructor and his wife were, let's just say, difficult, and believed they deserved a lot more in the deal. We'd done a launch, very successful launch, had some good software, etc. And then he basically said, hey, I'm not going to teach the classes unless you make me a partner. And the whole thing nearly imploded. And again, it was a very difficult time. We were nearly getting to lawyers. And so what ultimately sort of resolved, but I was on a cruise ship, ironically, looking at the tile. I was in this sort of the steam room, and noticed that the tile went in a wave. But ultimately, it got to the edge, and I reasoned that as long as we know where we want to go, and we keep course correcting, even if we're going in the entirely wrong direction, as long as we keep course correcting with that end in mind, and we don't quit, we can still get there. So we weren't talking at that time, and I'll keep it short, but essentially I went back to them when I said, my reasoning was if I can get them to agree that originally the end game, the goal was to get to here, and we were going in this direction. And I just said, look, guys, would you agree this is where we wanted to get originally? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, look, let's course correct. Let's kind of regroup on this. Let's try to get back heading in that direction. And it may not be a straight line, but if we can keep massaging that a bit and we don't quit, we can get there. Is that fair? And I wound up bringing in a divorce mediator. That's how bad it was. Yeah, because I was thinking who would be the best at help resolving this conflict. And by the way, just so you know, they both had narcissistic personality disorder. If you don't know what that is, I didn't either. But yeah, huge egomaniacs, and there was more I won't get into. But anyway, the divorce mediator helped us get there, and we kept going like this, and finally we got there, and we did get the thing back on track for a period of time. In the end, they were impossible to work with, but at least in the near term. Point being, this is similar. If we agree that our goal is to get to the end of the bull run, and we think Bitcoin could go to 200,000, 150 to 200K, and we realize it's not going to be a straight line, and we keep course correcting, eventually, and we don't quit, eventually we'll get there. It's a long-winded example, but that was really helpful for me then, and also in later in life with other situations. So here's where we are. We are looking to go up here, and that would correlate with a, Bitcoin hitting new all-time high. Again, referring back to Michael Turpin's book, there's a lot of good examples, especially if you just go to the end. The last 2-3 chapters are worth the price of the book, talking about the super cycle and just how, inevitably, and by trading the ups and downs, it's still not too late to get rich in Bitcoin playing the cycles. But you have to kind of know this is what we're in for. All right, hopefully that was helpful for you guys. That's enough on the IBIT. Again, I think we, if I was a weatherman, I'd say we have some rain on the horizon, and then it's sunny skies, and then more rains. So you guys get it. But this couple more days of pullback, we want to see that weekly, though. We really need to see the weekly ERI print. So I'll be watching that carefully going into Sunday night, and hopefully, and it looks like we're there. We're crossing over the green line to the red on the TSI. And so what that would suggest is next week, and even going into Monday, we could start seeing this turn green. And then we really have an ideal scenario to be getting back in this market. Okay? You don't hear me say that often. Hey, this is Brett from Moonstream. If you'd like to learn more about our pro trading signals or our live classes every Wednesday or our Retire Rich program, go over to moonstream.io/start.